Sometimes recovery looks like hard work, discipline, and learning how to move again. And sometimes it looks like laughter, like connection, like a blue puppet named Bubbles reminding you that you're still human in the middle of it all. I met John Cooper and Robert Jones in Vegas at the Amputee Coalition Conference, and at first glance, they couldn't be more different. One is a physical therapist grounded in science, structure, and rebuilding the body. The other, a veteran, a storyteller, and a puppeteer who somehow finds a way to lift the spirit when it matters most. But together, there's something else entirely. A dynamic duo that represents both sides of the recovery journey. Because healing isn't just physical and it's not just emotional, it's both. This is a conversation about what it really takes to come back. This is Amped Up to 11. Hey everyone, welcome to the Amped Up to 11 podcast. My name is Rick Bonkowski, and I have a very, very special couple of guys here today that I met in Vegas. Hello, gentlemen. How are you today? Mr.
Jim Maxwell. Hello, everybody.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I know that we were kind of like social media friends, me and John, and then I got the pleasure of meeting Robert and his little companion, which we're going to introduce shortly. People that know you and love you. I very much see you both as this dynamic duo, these two awesome pieces of energy that, bring your skills, your talents, your passions to the community. And I think it's really important that we get this story out there and try to lift up some hearts and minds. And I guess the first question I would have with both of you is, how did you meet?
Everybody seems to ask that question.
Yeah.
About 3 years ago, I became an amputee, and I was trying to figure out how to walk. And I couldn't walk. I had a 25-degree contracture, and I couldn't stand up on my prosthetic. So I got referred over to HPRC's physical therapy, and there I met John. And me being an old military guy, somebody tells me to do something, I'm kind of whatever. But John came in and said, nope, you're doing this, you're doing it this way. And then he took the torture device out and started rubbing on my legs. But he got my contracture from 25 degrees down to 2 degrees, and I was able to walk. So I contribute me being able to walk to what John has done for me. And we've been friends ever since.
John, what do you think brought you to being, a physical therapist? What was, aside from amputees and, that whole community piece, like what attracted you to that as a profession?
Well, I enjoy working out myself and trying to help other people. And I had my grandfather that had an operation where he had blood on the brain, and he had to have a hole drilled in the skull to get that out, and he lost his mobility. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see him doing physical therapy, but did see him walking down the hallway with the therapist, and that just we got him back from that happening in Thanksgiving time to coming back to his house on Christmas. And so I just said, I love working out and trying to help other people. So I became a PTA, and where I was before, I helped only 5 amputees within a 14-year time span. And since where I am now, it's about maybe 3 to 5 at a time. And was fantastic enough to meet Rob. And honestly, I just guided him a little bit, and he was so energetic and just ready to do stuff that he took that guidance and ran with it. And the first time I didn't expect, but he was in the parallel bars, and he just swung his leg up over there and said, this is how I'm going to start stretching it out. I was like, okay, you look good with that. So let's go with it. So
that's awesome.
It was kind of a 50-50.
No, that's awesome. And I think I recognized that energy between you two right away. Like, this is interesting. Where's the connection point? And so often in the amputee journey, when any of us reflect on our progress, that forward movement, all of those physical challenges, we lean into people like John, because I'm going to echo a little bit of what you're saying. When I was in a rehab center, I want to say for about 6 weeks after my amputation. So I was one of the very, very fortunate people that had actual like rehab. I know there's a lot of amputees out there, and my heart goes out to you, that do not have that luxury where they actually have someone that they can sort of partner with and say, okay, we're going to get you back. We're going to teach you these skills. We're going to show you how to adapt. We're going to at least get you on a path where you have some foundation to build on, right? So I was in rehab, and, you know, my PT, a guy named Gary, you know, it was like the first day, you know, I'm in the walker, and everything's foreign to me, right? I never had to move around on one leg ever in my life. So I'm suddenly on this walker, and I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm all in my head. This looks ridiculous. You know, I'm sweating. I'm using muscles right now that I'm not used to using. Like, none of this feels like my body anymore. And you're coming into a room, and it's, you know, mats are everywhere, and this feels very very gym-like. And even that after surgery is very intimidating. And I remember getting down on the mat, you know, Gary starts stretching me out, talking a little bit, and he's being very, 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 very kind. And then it just hit me, and I thought, this is the guy. This is the guy that's going to help me. This is the guy that's going to help me get my life back. And
that's exactly how I felt, John.
Yeah. So you know what I'm talking about when you have that sort of like aha moment where you go, okay.
Exactly.
And I think we experience that with our prosthetist too, because there's so many players along that path. But I thought, okay, this is the guy. And he took it easy on me, you know, the first day or two. He was kind of like being patient and, okay, we're going to try this. We're going to push you just a little bit today. And then I remember after like 3 days, I looked at him dead in the eye, and I said, I really need you to kick my ass. And he goes, yeah. And he looks at me and he goes, no problem.
I think that's basically what I did with you.
Exactly what we did.
And that's when all of the progress started. Because he's like, everything with you, Rick, is going to be one more. We got to go one more. I need you to do one more. Keep pushing yourself. And I credit, him very, very often in conversations that if I did not have, my own John, I probably wouldn't have become mobile as quickly as I did, had adapted as quickly as I did once I did go home. And all of those foundational skills are incredibly important. And, so many of the amputee community out there, again, doesn't have that luxury. So, of course, I would tell someone that doesn't really have that in terms of insurance, coverages, resources, find someone that can help. Find someone that can serve as maybe a motivator, follow maybe people. I mean, we all somehow have these things,
Yeah.
We all walk around with these now. This seems to be standard equipment to be a human. And we have the ability to get on YouTube or follow someone on social media and say, give me some tips, give me some tricks, When
some important things too is to make sure a new amputee gets linked into a support group.
Oh, absolutely.
Because when I became an amputee, when I was in the hospital, nobody knew what was next. It was, I was just blind. I'm just moving forward blindly. I had no clue. Like, where do I go? What do I do? What questions do I not know to ask? And just all that stuff, because it's like you said, it's totally brand new. Your life you're doing the same things, but you're doing them all differently now.
For sure.
And you have to work to be able to do those things again. So yeah, so getting into the support groups and then following people like Miss Cozy. She has some great books that'll help with the physical therapy part if you can't go.
Cozy
But
Talks.
I would recommend you get to physical therapy. Talk to your doctors. More than likely, they can do a prescription to get you in, but and then find a way to pay for it. But it's worth it.
No, absolutely. The ROI on that investment.
Yes.
You can't even track it. It's
No,
huge.
it's years.
Yeah, it's so critically important, and you're building all of those new skills because it's this new version of yourself. Robert, tell the audience a little bit about how you ended up becoming an amputee.
Well, I was a military brat my whole life, so basically everything I knew was Army, and I did 20 years of service. Then I retired. Then I
Thank
was
you.
a defense contractor. And then I was out instructing. And as I was out in the woods teaching new privates, I just fell. And I had no idea why. My leg just gave out.
Hmm.
Um, Ended up going to my doctor, and they looked at my foot and they about panicked. They said, "You got no blood flow going to your lower limb." And then I ended up going to emergency surgery where they found out I had a blood clot. And then they tried to save the leg, but it was just going to be mangled. And I looked at my doctor and I said, "Sir, for quality of life, just take it. Because if not, I'm going to be limping around. I'm going to be in a wheelchair. I'm never going to have a good quality of life again." And me being military, I want to punch through it.
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, and I looked at him and said, take it. Because if you don't take it, my quality of life is never going to be the same."
Yeah.
And he finally convinced him. And so I was able to be amputated March 1st, 3 years ago.
Yeah. And I met you, at the convention in Vegas for Amputee Coalition. You're highly mobile. I didn't.
Yeah.
I did not see. And everyone's gait gets affected a little bit differently due to
Mm-hmm.
amputation, but I wasn't detecting a struggle in you in terms of your mobility.
To be honest, I had the best team, HPRC, and then Miss Malone, my prosthetist. I have the best team ever, especially in the Columbus, Georgia area. That really got me where I'm at.
Yeah.
And they keep motivating me too, and making me laugh, and I'm making them laugh. And we just made it a fun project together to make me be the best that I can be.
Sure. Absolutely. And I appreciate you sharing all of that. And thank you for your service again.
Thank you.
John, meeting you has been such a pleasure, and your energy and your enthusiasm for people like, me and Robert. Where do you think that kind heart comes from?
I think just from my parents, from the Lord above mainly, yes, definitely. As I was thinking of what I had really in my heart and mind was in Colossians 3:23 is whatever you do for the Lord, work heartily for the Lord, not for men. And so the whole time of preparing to go to the conference was just wherever to go, and it was a joy to be with Rob and other people that we met through a virtual support group, but to kind of provide for them. There wasn't a seat to sit down at somewhere, so I went and grabbed. And I guess I'm just a server, and in general, but from my parents, following their lifestyle, it's just a joy to bring joy to other people, and it's just awesome to be able to be with Rob going on a plane. And I love how your article that you had the other day described wonderfully about gripping, how I can imagine you gripping onto the seat of the airplane like you were like trying to hold somebody up.
I think
and being able to
I wrote
Rob,
like grabbing the seat like it owed me money.
yes, that was like, it was beautifully written. But traveling with Rob, seeing that firsthand, fortunately we got there super early at the airport. We didn't have to go through too much of this stuff, but traveling with him, being next to him,
We
seeing
get the
him,
shortcut.
yes,
So.
taking his limb off and being in the hotel room, and he was able to have things provided, but of walking around, like you said, seeing other people, different gait patterns,
Yeah.
and how maybe it wasn't working the best at that time, but they were still able to go and do the conference in the hallway.
Yeah. I mean, it touches everyone differently. And
Mm.
I'm always so blown away by people that choose to serve in that way. And they don't necessarily come from trauma or limb difference or limb loss, but they still feel that calling to serve. And we as a community have to celebrate people like you and help lift you up and say, please keep doing what you're doing, because it makes a huge difference in our lives, because we can't do this alone. Just like any other form of adaptation struggle, if we're faced with a challenge in life, I don't I don't subscribe to the lone wolf theory. I I need help. I need to surround myself with people, with community, and that's what gets me through the hardest times. And I feel so fortunate that I get to talk to people like yourselves, you know, amputees, practitioners, people in tech, this really, really interesting and engaging community of people. And, I feel very blessed in that regard. And, what would you say for yourself, Robert, were some of the bigger challenges that you faced as a new amputee? Um, was there anything that surprised you?
Uh, well, I really struggled with identity loss when I first became an amputee. Um, Being military all my life, military brat in the military, worked for military after I retired. My whole life, my dad was military. My whole life has been military. My wife was military.
Oh,
She
wow.
served 29 years and retired. So everything about me was Army. Well, when I lost my leg, everything about me was gone.
Yeah.
And I'm laying in that hospital bed going, who am I now? What am I going to do? That whole questioning of what's going on. Well, it was dark. My room was dark. And then I saw a little light right off to the peripheral vision. And I looked, I thought it was the light underneath the door. And I looked, but the light moved. And I'm like, what's going on? And all I heard was a voice. It was a deep voice. And he goes, did I take your heart? Did I take your wife? Did I take your child? Everything about you is still there. I took your leg because I need you somewhere else. And then I realized it wasn't that I lost my identity. I just changed my environment. And then the biggest part for me was trying to learn the civilian environment because it's totally different than military.
Yeah.
And at the same time, try to figure out how to walk, how to drive, how to do things around the house.
I think
But
it's a
yeah,
very
my
common
biggest,
theme, though, what you mentioned when you say, who am I now? I know
yeah,
I've faced that personally, where I don't recognize that person in the mirror anymore. I don't know who that is. And that
but when I
is,
realized God talked to me, literally talked to me,
yeah,
I realized God is active in my life, not just words in a book, not just somebody I want to believe in, but not see anything. He's actually present and active in my life. And that changed my life a lot.
that's incredible. No, what a great story. And when you hear things like that, John, I mean, how does that make you feel about, your profession and what your career path is going to look like?
It just strengthens it and solidifies it more, especially with seeing all the people that were able to gather at the conference, and just to see the time that Rob and I had really like come to understanding each other, heartfelt moment that I did not expect. And it was just kind of like one of those things, like you said, that we're friends, now, even throughout, past treatment. It's been like 2 years since I've been working with him as a PTA, but of just seeing how far the ripples can go, just making it, helping to make a difference in one person's life, and that can go much further.
It's also making a difference in the community.
Oh yeah.
We're doing a limb loss awareness for April, limb loss awareness on April 30th.
Here it comes.
We're going to a baseball.
Yes.
And this is something our friendship has built. Last year was our first annual. We were at a little table and we were just introducing people and talking to people. This year we're actually in a baseball game and I'm going to be throwing the first pitch. Yeah.
That's awesome. That is so awesome.
And so just having an impact on the community when you get a friendship like this, that's really strengthened by God and God giving me a good mentor of seeing what the civilian world's really like. Yeah. Because honestly, I had no clue. And following John's lead, he's made me a better person.
Oh, thank you. And you too, man.
That's awesome. No, the energy is very, very, bright, let's say. I have a question because, people that follow you guys know about a little blue person that, tends to pop up every now and then. I guess my first question is, have you always been a puppeteer or is this new?
So my second tour in Iraq, our guidance was pretty much win hearts and minds. And we had like 4 villages that we were responsible for in our zone when we went out on patrol. And we would go to these villages, talk to the elders, they would lie to us, and then we'd find IEDs, or you know how it is. It's foreign country, they don't trust you, you don't trust them. It's one of those things.
It's state of war.
So when I was in Kosovo, we had a philosophy is the kids were the future of Kosovo. So we would talk to and engage the kids, build schools and do stuff like that. And then we're still in Kosovo. We still got a headquarters there, but those kids are now adults and they're making Kosovo a better place when we influenced them back when they were kids. I remembered that. So my second tour in Iraq, I took 5 puppets. And I would do puppet shows out of the back of the Humvees to the kids with the interpreter speaking. And then I'm just moving his mouth. And then at the end, we would ask them questions. Have you seen anything out of the ordinary? Have you seen anybody that doesn't belong here? And they would tell us.
Yeah.
Because they're kids. And
it's great strategy, too.
And it wins hearts and minds. And again, I was looking at the philosophy. We're going to be in Iraq 20 years. You talk to a 10-year-old, guess where he's going to be in 20 years? He's going to be an adult, and he's going to be influenced by us, by a puppet. And when I left, I left 1 puppet at each of the villages, which are still being used in their schools. My interpreters told me that they still use the puppets in the schools. And I brought 1 home myself, and his name is Bubbles. And he ended up in the box, my military box, retirement. And just as when I tell my grandkids what I did. Well, when I was going to the hospital for the amputation, my wife's like, you got a book, you got music, you need anything to entertain yourself? And I flipped open the box and there's Bubbles right on top. And I was like, yeah, I need him. Because then I can mess with the nurses and all that good stuff.
Oh my God.
And my wife was
I can only imagine.
You're crazy, right? So I brought out Bubbles and he was a big hit. And
well, I got to experience Bubbles myself in Vegas, and just the energy, and the sort of happiness and joy that brings to the room, I think is really important, even as an adult.
Well, it made every nurse come in smiling, and I got the best care. And, it's one of those where if you interact or make it a fun event, they're going to take better care of you. They're going to want to come see you and not avoid you.
Yeah.
And it's that whole part when you become an amputee where you're at the T intersection. You can go to the dark side or you can go to the light side.
Exactly.
And, going to the dark side, you're going to be pushing everybody away, and then you're on your own.
Yeah.
And then if you go to the light side, you joke, you accept it, and you just say it is what it is and make it fun. Like my first joke when I woke up in the recovery room, I was like, my wife's there, Bubbles is right next to me, because as the joke was, I told the doctor Bubbles was my emotional support puppet. Not just as a joke. Well, he wrote it on the documents. That means he had to go everywhere I went. So when I woke up, Bubbles is in surgical garb. He had the hat, he had the gown, he had everything.
That's awesome. What a great story.
So when I woke up, Bubbles is here, my wife is over here, and then nurse is coming in. She was like, Mr. Jones, I need to give you your height and weight because I got to give you your medication.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, 160 pounds, 5'9", but now I'm down a foot. She started laughing. My wife started laughing, and I knew I was going to be okay. I'm going to the light side.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I always used to say, I finally lost that, that last, 15 pounds that I was trying to lose for so long.
The greatest weight loss program.
Exactly. That darn, that really stubborn last 15 pounds. I finally got it off, So, without further ado, I would like to introduce the very famous, the very well-known Bubbles.
Hello, everybody. I'm Bubbles. Hi.
Hi, Bubbles.
It's
How are you
so good
today?
to see you.
It's good to see you as well.
I remember you from Vegas.
Oh, I remember you too. Thank you for remembering me. You were pretty busy in Vegas. I know you were entertaining your fans, telling jokes, and doing all kinds of cool stuff. Do you have any jokes for us today?
Well, I was talking a lot of the jokes for Mr. Rob earlier, and let's see, what's the best joke? Best joke. I don't know. I can tell you that Mr. Rob and Mr. John have been the really bestest in taking care of me.
I bet.
He's like the best proctologist ever.
That was a great joke, Bubbles, without even like setting up a joke. You're pretty smart in that regard. Bubbles, I noticed that you have blue fur. I mean, where did you come from? Like, what type of creature are you with your blue fur?
Well, I'm a Muppet, and so it's sort of like a Sesame Street. I'm like Elmo's cousin, and Cookie Monster's my uncle.
That's great. That's great improv as well, Rob. Bubbles, I just want to personally, from the Amped Up to 11 podcast to you, I want to thank you for everything that you've brought, to this community. And I'm hoping that you will continue your work in getting us to laugh and smile. And I just want to be able to say when you're really, really rich and famous, that's awesome. When you're really rich and famous, that you remember all us little people, okay?
Always, because you guys are coming with me.
Yes. All right. That's cool. I appreciate it.
John says I'm very flexible. I can put my leg on my head.
Okay, you guys can come back in frame. I think we got to...
Thank you. Bye. Bye-bye, everybody.
No, I want you to keep Bubbles around.
Okay, I'm still here.
Yeah, you can keep Bubbles. It's cool. So, Robert, this is a wonderful thing that you do, and incredibly entertaining and funny. And I just want to describe to the audience, in Vegas, Bubbles kind of stole the show, so to speak. And I think especially when you were interacting with Kosi, it was like everyone kind of like, I could see everyone just sort of like moving in, like, what's happening over here? And
yeah.
Yeah, and it was Kosi, and Bubbles was very, very, very excited to meet Kosi, and it was a lot of fun. Yeah. And for anyone who doesn't know, we're talking about Kosi Beloso from Cozy Talks, and she's one of those people in the community that is very, very appreciated and regarded, and she has her own channels, which I definitely recommend people check out. So
every Wednesday at 8.
Go ahead.
Rick,
Yeah.
I felt starstruck when I saw you and her as well. So I was just
enough
like,
of that.
Oh, you really did, honestly.
Enough of
that. I saw you walking in. I was like, yes.
Even though I saw Cozy, he forgot how to talk. And then he saw you and he started jumping up and down like a little kid. There he is.
Yeah. If I could only aspire to be as famous as Bubbles, that's going to get me places. Let me tell you. No, it's always really, really heartwarming to meet people online, have an exchange of ideas, and develop sort of that digital friendship. But when you really get to meet people in person and have a true human interaction, I'm sort of old
Definitely.
school that way, and that's when, like, it's sort of magical when you're like, "Hey, you're actually a real person, like, here we are." It's not just an email
Not a digital
address or
puppet,
yeah,
just real.
it's not just a profile on social media, like, no, we're all people, and we're in this experience together, and, I feel very fortunate that I'm able
I think
to
it's one of the gifts I think I had that a reason I needed to be in the civilian world is the gift to bring and make people smile and laugh
yeah,
and help them get out of the darkness and into humor. Um, and share like bubbles or share my story and then show them that there is a better way and that you can joke and you can have fun. And then little kids, when they see bubbles, they love them. And then they see that he's an amputee also. And they go, "Oh my God, we actually got representation in the Muppets. I got an amputee friend now."
yeah,
And Bubbles will talk to him and give him a hug or a high five. And they just walk away with the biggest smile, knowing that they have a puppet representation of them. And I, I, I find that it makes me better
yeah,
because we get out, we start joking, we start having fun, and you see a social walking around the convention and stuff. People would just stop to get pictures,
sure.
but every time they would say thank you, and I would say thank them, and they're like, "You just made me smile," and just seeing. And plus, my legs lit up with the lights and
Yeah,
everything,
yeah.
so
Yeah, it's a
everybody sees that.
yeah,
And the reason I did
it's
the
a whole
pump leg,
identity, that you've built, which is really important, and I think you're right about to be able to experience joy again after loss is so important, and I think comedy, laughter builds those little bridges that gets us
yes,
there, because anyone that goes through, a traumatic event or an illness like yourself where you lose, a part of yourself, there's always that, how am I going to smile again? How am I going to laugh again? How am I going to experience joy again? There's so many questions. And I want to echo something you said as well before, Robert, which was there's that emotional component, right? Because, yeah, we lose this physical part of our bodies. And that seems to be okay. That's certainly shocking and immediate. But what we quickly learn as newer amputees is, whoa, this is really a lot of emotional weight to carry. And then all the psychological stuff starts to arrive. And then it becomes, who cares about my leg? Like, I'm hurting, like, emotionally.
hmm
And I need to build some kind of resilience, defense system, support to get through some of the psychological pain that I'm experiencing, because it is a full spectrum of grieving, I think, that occurs because you kind of go through the stages, right? The whole like denial, then bargaining, you're trying to get to acceptance of this is just how it is.
Well,
And
like I tell new amputees, I said PTSD is not reserved for the military.
yeah,
Yes, military has it, but PTSD, post traumatic stress, is for anybody that has some traumatic stress. And an
yeah,
amputee you have the traumatic stress. So they do have to handle the emotions the same way. And you see, if a soldier goes unchecked and denies it, he has a rougher time. If he
yeah,
accepts it, he can actually get better.
yeah. And
So that's kind of an amputee needs to think that same way.
yeah, no, I totally agree with that sentiment. I want to ask you a related question, John. So, given that emotional weight, right? And you do intake, and you're meeting this new patient, for the first time, and you're detecting like, okay, this isn't just like a physical event here. We've got someone who's in a really, really dark place emotionally. There's some psychological damage, and from the PT perspective, which I'm sure a lot of amputees play with this idea, what's your move in that situation? I mean, what's your tactic? How do you get them motivated to face the physical challenges, right?
Mhm.
Knowing that they're in pain emotionally.
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to be tough. And how do you approach it? What angle do you come from?
Well, I just try to come from, like we've talked about, kind of spreading joy. I like to just be fun and uplifting and dancing and maybe singing with whatever is on the radio or so. But fortunately, I have not been in somebody I don't think that's been in such a position at that at first, because I think a lot of times they've been in the hospital and they've gone through the process of getting their prosthesis set up and stuff like that. So they've maybe had more time to kind of process that.
Yeah.
But there has been times where I've had people that have been doing fantastic and then they don't feel very well, and then they just kind of get down on themselves and might not want to be able to do as much. But I try to tell them, is been my motto for a while, is, well, let's take a can't and turn it into a try, and then maybe a did. And so
Mm,
before long, they'll get up and then they kind of will start to realize that they actually were able to do more than what they were thinking they were going to be able to do. But I didn't know that Robert had told me about with what he's had, and everything, that I was just kind of like, being at that conference is wanted me to lean into other people and find out more of their backstory and stuff like that, instead of just trying to initially kind of treat them, get them where they need to be. So I've become more compassionate about that.
Well, we also have we kind of started something on our own that has actually helped a lot. Um, Miss Malone that made me some business cards, and she put on there patient advocate. And what I do is we take those business cards. John, when he sees an amputee, he'll hand them that card. And if they, need somebody to cheer him up, or we had one who was a veteran. He's new in the area, had nobody, didn't know anybody. So I ended up taking him and his wife. We went to lunch. Then I took him to the VFW, introduced him to some vets in the area. And now he's got friends and people around him. And I don't have to hang out with him every day, but I still check in with him and see how he's doing. And he's doing great.
yeah.
But we kind of friend the loop here with a patient advocate that volunteers with the HPRC and also medical health and resources, so that when they don't have time because they can't invest that time,
Yeah.
I'm retired. I can't. So I'll bring bubbles, or I'll come in, I'll take them to lunch, and I'll just spend time with them, let them know they're not alone, and then tell them what's next, because there was no one there to tell me what was next. So here's what to expect next. Here, you can drive again one day. And that was the biggest one. They were like, I can drive again?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, you can. And here's what you got to do. And
Yep.
it just cheered them up and made them want to do more. And so I think it helps that way. So this is kind of what we did locally here. And hopefully other facilities in the future can build something like that. Find that patient that they can trust, that's upbeat, and then give them business cards, and then let them be on call.
Yeah.
And then he can come and help. That's what we do.
Yes, and Rick, what I kind of say is, picking back what Rob said, is when we were in Atlanta, that's where, coming from Columbus to Atlanta to go to Vegas, that I happened to see a young lady in a wheelchair, and she had jeans on, but I could tell she had an above the knee prosthesis on. So I introduced myself as outgoing as I am, and I said, "Hey, we're here. We're going to the conference in Vegas. I'm going as well." She lives in Atlanta. And she kind of told us that she only gets out, I don't know what, maybe two or three once a week or whatever. And so she actually went with us on the plane, and she hung out with us at the conference. So just kind of having those small moments is amazing.
Yeah. And then her getting new friends and meeting new friends. And she went back home to Atlanta with a bunch of new friends. So like we did, we came back, shout out to Rex, Miss Linda,
that's awesome.
Jamie, Miss Kristen, shout out to you guys.
Yeah. And I agree with you, because sometimes for folks, and, I get a lot of, private messages from the community, and sometimes the theme becomes how alone they feel in this experience. And they don't have a local community group They don't have anyone that is in their family or their friends that has anything similar in terms of this, limb loss, limb difference experience. So it feels very isolating. And
And you don't want to be a burden, so you kind of isolate yourself so that you're not interfering with
you're
anybody.
right.
I understand the feeling, but that's not a true statement.
No, you're absolutely right. People will actually press into that and say, okay, this is just how my life is now. I'm very alone. And people come and visit and wish me well and, hope for the best. But I don't feel empowerment in this.
Mm.
And I always say, okay, what can we do in the community? How can we develop resources, develop support? I was talking to a group that I visit locally, and I had mentioned to them, oh yeah, I went to the conference, and I'm telling you both, everyone in the room, their eyes lit up. You went to the conference? And I thought, well, yeah, I mean, Amputee Coalition does a conference every year. You went to the conference? And they were just, tell us, what's it like? And of course, I tried to be as descriptive as possible. And then I started feeling like this is like heartbreaking to me because they don't have the resources to go,
Yeah.
or they're too afraid to travel, right? Or they're too afraid to be seen in that
But
situation.
goals. The Amputee Coalition does have scholarships
Yeah.
that you can apply for.
Yep.
And so if you can't afford it, please at least try to apply for it.
Yep.
Set a goal of actually wanting to get there next year and then work that year to get physically fit so that you can go.
Yeah.
Set it as a goal. And there is ways.
I agree with you. And my
I'm
wheels started
sure-
turning, Robert. I started thinking like, okay, how can we raise some money to get all these people out there?
Yeah.
Like, how are we going to do this? I know people, my gears just start going because I'm a business guy. I'm thinking, all right,
Yep.
fundraise, do this, do that. How do we
And then
make this happen? The magic happen
so
for these people.
we get that, and then we get with the Amputee Coalition, say, hey, we want to donate to the scholarship, and then do presentations and donate to the Amputee Coalition for the scholarships.
Yeah.
And that, I believe, is the best consolidated way, instead of having a bunch of little ones all the way around, is let Amputee Coalition, because they're hosting it, be the one that collects the monies, and then that way they can actually apply it properly.
Yeah. No,
Because all the applications are going to them.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And that support from all of us is really important for organizations, like the Amputee Coalition, whether we're talking about 50 legs, less leg, more heart, where we're talking about Limb Kind Foundation, we're talking about Limbs for Life. There's all these amazing people, non-amputee, that are doing these great things to try to lift us up. And when I described the coalition to this group, it was so interesting to see the reactions, because the way in which I described it was, when we walk around as amputees, generally, we're the only amputee in the room. I go to the grocery store, I'm the only amputee in the grocery store. I go to work, well, I'm the only amputee on staff. I said, you can't imagine what it feels like when you walk in to a conference, even the hotel lobby, and you go,
Yep.
there's amputees everywhere, right? I go,
It's amazing to see.
Well, it's so empowering. Like,
It is.
Like, we're this
It's like,
little army, right? We're this little gang. Like, look at us.
well, I thought I was doing so good, like you were saying earlier, you don't look like, you're struggling too much with your amputation. And I was feeling good until I got there, and I looked and I see these double amputees running circles around me going, what the?
Yeah,
It's amazing.
I've seen a few. Yeah, I've had conversations with people, and then they just kind of like jog off, not walk off.
Yeah.
They sort of jog away, and I'm like, Excuse me? What's that?
It's like our friend Rex, double amputee, but he wears pants so you can't see it. And you're like, but he's walking around like he's,
Yeah. Effortless.
and it was like,
Mm.
wow. It was
Yeah.
like, it's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, wait a minute, what's the secret sauce? Can you please share?
Secret sauce is metal. They use metal in their legs.
Little carbon fiber mixed in there, you know? I mean, these are the things I think, I'd like to see change. When you guys talk about, let's say, potholes in the process, the things that are pain points, for amputees and physical therapy and let's just call it the process of rehab in general. I mean, what are the, what are the struggles? What are the pain points that you guys feel need to be addressed?
Well, I think insurance companies need to understand that physical therapy is more, it's part of the treatment. It's not a good to have, it's a need to have. The insurance companies, I know they're trying to save money or whatever, but they're not looking at physical therapy as what it is for who it is. And yeah, I understand if you twisted your knee and you got to do physical therapy for a week or two or whatever, but this is an amputee. His life has changed. And so he needs aggressive physical therapy, and it doesn't need to be for a couple of days. It needs to be until he gets to a certain gait. And John can explain the gaits better, but that also the acceptance of, like, when you're at the hospital, what's next? How do I get to physical therapy? Because if I don't know how to go, I won't go.
Yeah.
And so there should be something that tells that patient, here's what you need to do now. You need to start calling around and finding a good physical therapy place that you can go to. And you need to be able to find a good prosthetist that works with them, because they can work together in building you the best product. And that's what we have here in Columbus.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough to be able to come here to do this.
What are your thoughts, John?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is kind of the insurance is what really kind of brought me into the passion working with amputees, is that I work right next door to the prosthetist, along with medical health resources. And where we've been recording the whole time, not in the MTV Cribs context, but this is where part of the magic happens.
Yeah.
This was my first leg that they built for me right here.
Okay.
So we've been in the lamination room where they put a lot of the prosthetics together, and, they do the covering and special covering. But I was able to last year shadow Malone, the prosthetist, and see the inside of everything, which is amazing. It's kind of like behind the scenes, if you're Willy Wonka and you're the kid that gets to get the golden ticket, and finding out that you only get so many prosthetics in so many years, and that's what's crushing. And so we're also kind of so everybody can move to try to get that you can get, if you want to have a running leg, that is necessary. That's not just a luxury item, because you can become more fit, especially if you were fit before traumatic event. You can continue to do that. Or somebody that was not, they might be inspired and go to do that. So that was heartbreaking to notice that. And so I love being able to have the tag team partnership, being able to come back, because that led to doubling up with Rob and then with Malone, and being able to say, this patient, something's going on with this. It might be more of a prosthetic issue, or I think I can work with him in the PT aspect. So like what Robert said, is the insurance and having just more of an understanding. There's a lot of people that making those decisions don't have the same issue going on.
Yeah. No, I think that we're getting there. Things are improving. Those medical necessity, issues in terms of language are starting to evolve. I know there's plenty of people in the community that are lobbying, Congress, trying to get, their local politicians to understand how important these needs are, and that
Well, last year, Georgia passed the bill, the So You Can Move bill.
Yep.
Georgia is one of the states that actually passed it. So it requires the insurance companies to give 2 prosthetic legs or prosthetic limbs instead of 1. And that's helps. And it is a great beginning, and Georgia is really in. And The problem is we're like 0.03% of the population that votes. But Georgia really takes us seriously, and they listen to us. And so I'm proud of our state of Georgia for doing that.
No, that's fantastic, and that's the hard work that needs to be done, and we all need to keep this awareness, resonating and creating content, getting out there, doing the charitable, serving types of activities that you both are doing. Developing, podcasts and various things that continue to move that needle so that this becomes more of the talk when people start to make decisions about disabilities and the rights of people in this space. And I think that it's just has to be that full guns, full assault initiative that we all try to just sort of put our energy in the right places. And I think over time we're going to make a lot of change. And I think the perception has started to shift. I think culturally, from what I read, from the interactions that I have with people, that the general public does not view an amputee as a life that is ended or is over anymore. I mean,
well, they see the Paralympics was huge in that, helping say, hey, if they can do that, I could do that. Or, well, they're not as disabled as I thought they were. No, he's able. So, and or she is able. And we have some of the best Paralympians. And watching the Paralympics this year, I'm so proud of the American team. So shout out to you guys. That was awesome. But also, it's one of those things where we need to take advantage of April being limb loss awareness.
Yes, sir.
Limb loss and limb difference awareness. We need to take control of that. And everybody that's watching this, get outside and preach in April. Just do whatever you can. Be seen.
Be seen.
If you're seen and then they ask you and say, yeah, this is Limb Loss Awareness Month. Did you know that? Our ribbon is orange and it's got the prosthetic leg on it. So this represents all of us amputees.
Absolutely.
So find you a ribbon, find you something. So when people ask, and don't be afraid to tell your story. A lot of times, and when I put the lights on my leg, I did that for this reason. Every time somebody sees the lights, they go, I love the lights on your leg. Thank you. And I move on. Without the lights, it was, oh, I'm sorry. What happened? And then you got to tell that story hundreds of times.
Yeah.
So what the Amputee Coalition taught me was come up with a 30-second or a 3-minute blurb that's your story, and then it's positive, and then tell them your story. Don't tell them what happened, because you'll be telling that forever and ever.
Yeah.
So, but I'm putting the lights on. It's like, I love the lights. Thanks. And I'm gone. So.
Yeah. No, I don't know if you guys realize this, but what we're taping today is going to be streaming during Limb Loss Awareness Month.
Yes.
So
nice.
This is a very, very important episode, and I appreciate you sort of, weaving that theme into this content without even being prompted. So thank you for that.
We make a good team. There we go.
very, very much so. So the thing I want to ask you both before we wrap up, as far as reaching out to you and your content and the resources that you guys engage, how do you prefer that our audience do that?
Well, I'm old, so I'm not really good at the computer stuff. In reality, Wesley is very old. He smells like dengue. But anyway,
come on, Bubbles, can't you help him out a little bit?
No, he does not.
We have Bubbles Great Adventures on Instagram.
Oh, really?
It's where I go on cruises, I go on trips, and I take pictures with Bubbles. I pose Bubbles, and I take pictures with different people as an amputee to show that you can't get outdoors. And, your adventures your adventure starts as soon as you take your first step out the front door. And your every day should have an adventure, whether it's going to the store or going to the Caribbean or going to Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
Yes.
And don't get caught in the rain, because then he has to blow dry your butt.
Yeah. That's right.
All the time, 100.
Sorry. Bubbles.
No, before John answers, I agree with you in terms of that, like, be seen concept, and then there's the normalization piece, right? Because it's like I've been a musician my whole life, and um, one of the things that I do every once in a while is I'll post content that's music related, for myself, and so much of that is trying to show what you just mentioned, which is you can still do what you love doing. It might look different.
Yes.
It might feel different. Okay. Going back behind a drum kit after losing my leg was very daunting because I'm like, okay, what a lot of people don't realize about being a drummer is you need every limb. It's a coordinated event. Like you need your whole body. A lead singer or even a guitarist can get by as a leg amputee. But because, drums is such a physical instrument, it was like, okay, now I got to like relearn how to do this all over again with a prosthesis. And my point in posting things is if you love it enough and if you want it badly enough, you'll do it. You'll get.
That's what we in the amputee community call your new normal.
Yeah.
And that's a real thing.
That's right. And someone will say, do you have a special device? Like, is your leg, is there like something special about the ankle? Or I'm like, no, I just took the equipment that I had and I saw it as a exercise in adaptation. I have to figure out a way to do this. Even though I don't have any touch sensitivity anymore in my foot, I still have a residual limb. And what does my residual limb feel like when my prosthetic foot is on the pedal? And then you start building all those new muscle memories, right? Because our brains work that way. All those new neural pathways start forming. And then suddenly you think you have those days where you have the days when you're stuck, it's hard. And then you have those days where you leap forward and something happens and you go, ooh, I get it. This is how it's supposed to feel.
One of the questions you asked earlier is, as a new amputee, what are the things that you experienced? One of the things that surprised me was that recovery from an amputation, 80% is mental, 20% is physical.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize, I thought it would be opposite, but it's not. It's really mental. It's that time to take out and, like you said, process your emotions, to accept it, to train your brain in the new reality. And that helps you grow, jump leaps and bounds forward if you take that time to do that versus trying to just focus on the physical when it's only 20% and the rest is still got to be taken care of.
Yeah, I always say, what's your mental game?
Exactly.
Where are you coming from on that? So, John, go ahead. Share how you'd like to be engaged by the community.
Well, probably the best way would be Instagram at John Cooper 9100. That's where I've been really trying to do a lot of the promotion for limb loss awareness, especially the baseball game we have coming up, but really kicking it up in April. I need to get back on it. As March, though, is pop month, so trying to celebrate some of those prosthetists and orthotists. But also more formal would be jcooper@hprc.net. That would be my work email.
Awesome. No, I appreciate you sharing that. Mr. John Cooper, Mr. Robert Jones, I so appreciate you. Don't worry, Bubbles. I haven't forgotten about you.
Should we put out the support online, our Facebook?
Yes.
But Bubbles gets the biggest sign off of any of you.
So we also have a Facebook group, and it's Bubbles Troubles, and it's a support group. So if you want to get on Facebook and find me, we can join, and we can be all friends there together.
Oh, that's great.
Yes.
That's wonderful. Amazing energy. The two of you, pardon me, the three of you. And
thank you.
I so appreciate you taking the time and what you bring to this space. And I think our audience is really going to enjoy hearing about you and, what you're doing and how you guys continue to grow your own little community. And I wish you so much luck and, positive energy in all your endeavors. But hey, we're going to be.
Well, thank you for giving us a platform and a voice.
Oh, absolutely.
Without somebody like you, we would be docking into the dark. And you brought light, and you bring it out on a platform that really gets people to listen. So I want to thank you personally, because you're doing great things. You're doing God's work.
No, I appreciate that, and just so everyone knows, people like yourself, you're my heroes. And when someone says, who do you admire? Hey Rick, who's your hero? And I'm people. These people that I get the pleasure of talking to and drawing energy from, and it inspires me to continue to take that spotlight and keep shining it on people like yourself. And someone will say to me, why do you do that? And I'm like, look at this person, look at how cool they are. Hey, look at these guys, look at how cool they are. And I just feel compelled to get that out there and let everyone know that the amputee community is very strong. It's very vibrant. It's very normal way of life.
Don't feel sorry for us. Just to encourage us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Gentlemen, again, thanks for being here. My name is Rick Bonkowski. This is the Amped Up to 11 podcast. And I want to...
Bye, Rick.
Bye, Bubbles. And I want to wish everybody, especially Bubbles, health and happiness. We'll see you next time.